Thanks so much. All right, coming up to the mic next is Rosanne Hinshaw, a Navy veteran who's going to prove that miscommunication makes travel an adventure.
Just a little adjustment here. Life's an adventure, even with all miscommunications. It just makes the event much more fun. It was in 1979 in November. I just turned 18. I was stationed at Great Lakes, Illinois, Naval Training Base. I was learning how to become a nurse's assistant. Well, the weekend was coming by quickly, and my adventure bug bit me hard. I wanted to explore Chicago. Well, the first thing that any savvy traveler does is find lodging. So I immediately found the yellow pages in the barracks, opened it up to the motel section, perused the listings, found one that looked a little reasonable, and dialed it exactly as it was printed. Ring, 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 and just as soon as someone said hello, I jumped in and said, "Do you have any rooms available, and how much do they cost?" There was a little bit of a pause, and then the gentleman on the other end said, "Yes, free." Free? Are you joking? How can they be free? Well, you reach the county jail. If you want to commit a crime, we'll be happy to accommodate you. I said, "No thanks," and swiftly hung up the phone. Well, I guess plan B. Just no overnight stay and see less of Chicago. So I decided on the Science Museum. Oh, that place was huge, and I was having such a grand time. I wandered around and finally found a little room that had an interactive exhibit. And I sat down and I started to play around, and all of a sudden, in my corner of my eye, I noticed this tiny nun with a huge habit on her, standing around the corner. All of a sudden, she swiftly runs at me like a ninja, grabs my ear and arm, and yanks me out of the chair. I said, "Lady, you're crazy, stop it." She said, "I told you it's time to go." So after a few horrifying seconds, she let me go, recomposed herself, and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were one of my students," and swiftly ran out the room. Well, let's fast track to about May of 2000. My sister and I decided to explore Europe. So first stop was Switzerland, the land of chocolate and the Matterhorn. One of the days we were staying there, my sister wanted to see Charlie Chaplin's chateau. I wanted to see an active salt mine that had public tours. So I decided to go solo. So I grabbed my trusty rock hammer and I boarded a train to Monterey. As I finally walked to the entrance, I was greeted by this guide, and he told me he spoke 5 different languages. Now, when I told him I was a geologist, he said, "Finally, somebody is going to actually understand what I'm talking about in this tour." And he gave me the royal treatment. As we were proceeding deeper and deeper into the mountain, we saw some amazing things. But near the end of the tour, he led us into this underground dining hall. It was closed at the time. So he said, "You see the walls over there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Why don't you take your rock hammer and chisel away? Maybe you'll find some really good salt crystals." I said, "Really? That would be great." So as I was complying, all of a sudden, this humongous chef comes out of the kitchen with a huge cleaver, yelling and screaming at me in French and going towards me. The guide intervened, and he just quietly talked to him, and then he went. And then the chef went into the kitchen, came back out with a crystal of salt and sulfur in his hand, and he started to present it to me. As I tried to reach for the crystals, he pulled back his hand and said, "No, no, no." And I complied. I gave him a little on his cheek, and he replied with, "Ooh la la," and then gave me the crystals. Next stop, Paris, the city of love, and where all American women claim that all the Frenchmen are rude and they're forward. Well, we went to this place called Musée de Vin, which in English means Museum of Wine. It was more restaurant than it was museum. In fact, it had all these maitre d's, very fancy maitre d's with towels over their arms and things like that, and huge amount of wine. I mean, hundreds of bottles for purchase all over the walls. Well, my sister wanted to buy one to take home. Well, she decided on one, and before she decided to present it to the gentleman for purchase, I, as a savvy traveler, remember reading that if the wine has some preservatives in it, they'll be confiscated at the customs and she won't be able to take it into the US. Well, there was a couple problems. First of all, the gentleman helping us didn't speak English. He only spoke French. We only spoke pidgin French. You know, just enough to get by and to be polite. And the third thing was we didn't know how to say preservatives in French. Well, it sounded French, so we winged it. Qu'est-ce que c'est le vin avec préservatif? All of a sudden he started getting blush and flush, and he started sweating, and something must be wrong. We just remembered that we had our pocket dictionary and took it out, opened it up to the French section, found the word preservatif, found out it was named condoms. We were asking, does the wine come with condoms? Just like, we're sorry, oh no, my gosh, no, we didn't mean it. Well, the moral to that story is, either do your research before you speak, or have your wine in 662. Now, would you agree that miscommunication makes the events much more fun? Yeah. Thank you very much.